Welcome. If you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by financial jargon, acronyms, and retirement planning, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're diving into a highly simplified, easy-to-understand explainer on one of the absolutely most powerful financial tools available to Canadians, the RRSP. We're going to strip away all that complexity and show you exactly how this account acts as a literal tax time machine for your wealth. Okay, let's just quickly run through our roadmap. First, what is an RRSP? Second, rules for RRSP contributions. Third, the power of tax deferral. Fourth, buying homes and paying tuition. And finally, what happens when you retire? Right into it. Section 1, what is an RSSP? And importantly, what it isn't. Let's clear up the absolute biggest misconception right out of the gate. An RRSP, a registered retirement savings plan. Well, it's not a specific stock or a mutual fund. It's really just a tax-advantaged basket registered with the government. Think of it like a protective shell. The account itself doesn't actually make you money. It's just the container that holds your real investments and shields them completely from the taxman while they grow. So what exactly can you put inside this protective basket? Well, you've got total control. You can hold individual stocks, bonds, exchange-traded funds or ETFs, mutual funds, GICs, or literally even just plain cash. You are entirely in the driver's seat here. You get to decide exactly how aggressive or how conservative you want to be with the investments inside, all based on your very own timeline and comfort level. Moving right along to Section 2, Rules for RRSP Contributions, Fueling Your Savings. 18%. This right here is the golden rule of RSSP contributions. Generally speaking, you're allowed to contribute up to 18% of your previous year's earned income, up to an annual maximum set by the government. And you know what the best part is? If you don't use all of your 18% in a single year, that room is not lost. No way. It just carries forward, accumulating year after year after year. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why we actually want to contribute in the first place. Let's look at Amina's tax time machine. Say Amina makes 90 grand a year, placing her in a pretty high tax bracket of around 40%. She goes ahead and contributes $5,000 to her RRSP basket. Step 2, the government now taxes her as if she only made $85,000, and boom, she gets a hefty tax refund for that difference. Step 3, her money grows completely tax-free for decades. When Amina eventually retires, her income is naturally much lower, meaning she's in a much lower tax bracket. She effectively time-traveled that $5,000 from a high-tax working year straight to a low-tax retirement year. It's brilliant. Okay, Section 3, the power of tax deferral, why early action matters. Time-traveling your taxes is great and all, but what actually happens to the money while it's just sitting in the machine? Let's compare two different investors. We have Bill. He started contributing $2,000 a year at age 25. He did this for only 10 years, investing a grand total of $20,000, and then he completely stopped. Then we have Mary. She waited until age 35, and she contributed $2,000 a year for 30 whole years, investing a total of $60,000. Now, by age 65, Bill's basket is worth nearly $315,000, while Mary's is only worth about $244,000. Even though Bill literally invested $40,000 less out of his own pocket, he ended up with $70,000 more. Wow, that is the staggering, undeniable power of early tax-deferred compounding. Now, a lot of folks ask how this compares to the other really famous Canadian account, the TFSA. So the absolute crucial point here is knowing your current income. Because RRSP contributions lower your taxable income today, they are generally much better if you're currently making over $50,000 a year. On the flip side, if you make less than $50,000, you really aren't paying a lot of income tax anyway. So the TFSA, which gives you completely tax-free withdrawals later, well, that often makes a lot more sense. Section 4, Buying Homes and Paying Tuition, the two early withdrawal exceptions. We've clearly established that this money is meant for retirement, but, what if life happens? This is definitely the number one anxiety-inducing question people have. If I put my money in this basket, is it locked away forever? Can I touch it without getting heavily penalized? Well, generally, if you pull money out early, you get hit with a massive, very painful tax bill. But the government has actually created two major, completely tax-free exceptions. The very first one is the Home Buyer's Plan. To help you get into the housing market, you can borrow up to $60,000 from your own RRSP completely tax-free to put toward the down payment of your first home. And hey, if you're part of a couple, you can both pull $60K, giving you a massive $120,000.
The catch? Well, it's essentially a loan to yourself. You absolutely have to repay that money back into your RRSP basket in equal increments over a 15-year period.
The second big exception is the lifelong learning plan. If you or your spouse suddenly decide to go back to school for full-time education or training, you can withdraw up to $10,000 a year without triggering that massive tax penalty. Just like the home buyer's plan, this is a loan. You're going to need to pay these funds back into your RRSP over a 10-year period.
And finally, we reach Section 5. What happens when you retire? Emptying the basket.
You've made it to the finish line, so how do we safely go about accessing these funds? The most important number to remember in this final stage of the life cycle is 71. Your RRSP officially reaches maturity on the exact last day of the calendar year you turn 71. By December 31st of that year, you are legally required to close the RRSP or convert it. You just can't leave it sitting there anymore. Now, you could choose to just withdraw everything as one giant lump sum of cash. But let me warn you right now, this is almost always a terrible idea. If you do this, your financial institution is going to immediately take out withholding taxes. If you pull out over $15,000, a massive 30% goes straight to the government immediately. Plus, that entire amount is suddenly added to your taxable income for the year, meaning you are facing an absolute nightmare of a tax bill. So instead of cashing out, let's look at some much smarter options. Most people actually convert their RRSP into a RRIF, a registered retirement income fund. It holds the exact same investments, but instead of putting money in, you're mandated to take a small minimum percentage out each year as a nice, steady flow of income. Alternatively, you can purchase an annuity, which essentially trades your lump sum for a locked, guaranteed paycheck for the rest of your life, kind of like a pension. Or, of course, you can use a clever combination of both. Before we wrap this explainer up, I really want to share an incredible pro tip from our sources, the spousal RSSP. If you have a spouse who makes significantly less money than you do, you can actually contribute to an RSSP in their name using your own contribution room. Why do this? Well, you get the big tax deduction today based on your high income, but in retirement, the withdrawals are taxed at your spouse's much lower rate. Just by splitting a $12,000 annual retirement income this way, a couple can literally save over $2,200 in taxes every single year. It's a real game changer. You know, it's so easy to get caught up in the mechanics of deductions and contribution limits. And let's be honest, it's really fun to get that dopamine hit of a nice fat tax refund in the spring. But we can never forget the core purpose of this tool. As our source material wisely reminds us, the true hero of this story isn't the immediate tax break. It's the long-term financial peace of mind. It's really all about taking care of your future self. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Is your tax time machine fueled up and ready for the future? I highly encourage you to log into your Canada Revenue Agency account, go check your available contribution room on your last notice of assessment, and start planning how you can fill up that basket today. Remember, the earlier you start, the more insanely powerful that time machine becomes. Thanks so much for joining me in this explainer, and happy saving!